All right, I think we haven't changed our participant number, so we'll go ahead and get started. So again, welcome to the session here on judges. And so we'll talk in any comments you have. Again, we're going to set up like similar with the other ones. We have a couple agents that are going to speak a little bit about their counties or districts that they're in terms of the judges in a lot of different areas about that. What we'll do is we'll have both of them visit first. And then what we'll do is open it up for questions for them directly, as well as just general discussion of your own experiences or things with judges. So our last half hour went really quick, and we would expect that this time as well. It's always a topic that comes up. We don't have it every time on this, but it certainly is always requested, and it's a very important topic when we look at hiring judges and having that positive experience in our livestock shows for the youth and parents, everybody that's involved with it. So with that, what we have two agents that are going to help us kind of kick things off. We have Abby Powell of the Marais-des-Cygnes district, which is Miami and Lynn County. We have Jenna Lee Gotze with the Twin Creeks district, which is a combination of 4 counties of Decatur, Norton, Sheraton, and Graham. So we're kind of covering 2 ends of the state. And maybe to kick things off, Abby, if you'd like to start off with your information of how your counties go about securing, hiring, and the different aspects of judges.
Okay, thanks, Joel. I'm sure mine will be different this time, as I'll try to cover some of the things that were asked in the questions last time. County in the Marais-des-Cygnes district, and I hire the judges for the Lynn County livestock shows. And my family consumer science agent and I both have tried to be careful with what we are doing as far as hiring goes and working with our superintendents, just to be very transparent, because the rumors do always swirl that I've hired a judge to win, and honesty, I would say, is one of my strongest assets. And so that is definitely not a true statement. Plus, I'm pretty sure we would have won by now if that was. When I look to how you lean on the community colleges, thank you, Joel, that might help. The community colleges and other people who, am I cutting out pretty bad?
Yeah, it's on and off, Abby.
Family came in, so then I have to shuffle to them. So let me go to a different spot and see what we can come up with.
Okay.
Okay, we'll try this. So we do not use a contract when we hire judges. I just email them and communicate with them via phone, text, emails. We hire 1 judge per species, so 1. And then when we look at the compensation plan, I do flat fees, rather that way my fair board secretary can have those checks ready before fair starts. And my judges' fees will range from about $250 to $400. And if we have to pay for any hotels, I work with the fair board ahead of time to make sure that we are staying in line there. The same judge 2 years in a row. And honestly, I'd say if you looked at the past 15 years that I've been here, I've not hired a judge twice. I will in some of the small species, but in the livestock, I really try hard not to do that, and keep kind of bringing new people in and trying to raise the bar. And one of the last things that I said in the last session was, this is not something that we enjoy, or at least I enjoy as an extension agent. And so I do try to keep finding somebody great each year, get better. But we are always open to suggestions too. And we do have to do a little research on these judges just to make sure we're not getting somebody that's too close to home. So.
Very good, very good. We may transition to Jenna Lee then. So again, we'll have her visit about her counties and how they handle each thing's a little different. And then we'll come back for general questions.
All right, so as Joel said, I am from the kind of the northwest corner of the state, and we have 4 counties in our district, and I think any of our agents would tell you they all operate exactly differently. So with that being said, I, in the past, have gotten the livestock judge for the Graham County Fair, and I think that may change a little bit going forward, but the 4-H agent, Patsy Maddie, and a collaboration of our other agents and support staff all kind of seek out the judges, the livestock judges in the other 3 counties. We do get together usually in January is our goal to meet as agents and discuss judges. And this is across the board, not just livestock judges, but indoor as well, that we've had in the past that we enjoy, or this is who we used last year. Can we transfer to another one kind of thing? And so that's a really good way to bounce ideas off of each other. One thing I didn't mention in the last session is I am able to kind of ask several people that we have connections with throughout the swine industry, different ideas on judges. And one thing that I'll touch on here in a minute that's a challenge for us is that we I think all 4 of our county fairs have 1 judge for all 4 species. Our numbers aren't quite as high as some that you would see in other Kansas counties. And so most of the time it's more feasible to do it that way. But it does make it more challenging to find a judge that is comfortable and efficient in judging all 4 species as well. So with that being said, we do not, none of our counties actually have a contract in place that they sign with judges. I know in Graham County, and I think it's similar in most of our others, we send out a letter about a month to a few weeks before our show, and it just serves as a reminder of, you have agreed to judge on this date. This is where you need to go. Please be there 15 to 20 minutes early. The important details, I guess. And along with that, we send out a copy of whatever section that they'll be judging from the fair book, which covers kind of our ribbon system and other rules that they might need to know as the judge for that species. So with that being said, every county has a different amount within our district that they pay. I think one of our counties is about $400 for this. Again, all of these are for all species. When I say all species, beef, sheep, goat, swine. We don't have a ton of dairy, be it cattle or goats up where we're at. So we don't run into that too often. But $400 plus mileage for one county, $10 an hour plus state mileage rate. And then that county's livestock, 4-H livestock committee also tacks on an extra $200 to kind of help add to that a little bit. One county is $125 plus mileage, and then our 4th county is $200 plus mileage. And all 4 counties include a meal voucher of some sort, if not more than one, if they're judging multiple days. For lodging and hotels for us, if it comes up as an issue or as a need, I should say, some of our fair boards will take care of that. And, like in Graham County, for example, last year, the judge it was a last minute request. And so our 4-H livestock committee just paid for that on a whim. But it's it kind of depends on the county for some of those details. I think that's all I have. Unless I missed something.
No, that's very good. Like in your case where you have 4 counties, they're all, again, this is part of districts, right? I mean, every county still has their independent 4-H program and how they set up over time. And again, there's looking through the list, I know there's several people on here that have some experience with this too. And as you get judges that you need to have for multiple species, in your case, you have one kind that you need all 4. how do you go, I mean, where's your list? How do you explore to get that group of people that, may be able to do multi-species, but maybe not all four, but even to pair them up? So how do you go about that?
So for us, like I said, that is a huge challenge, and I will 100% agree with Abby that finding a livestock judge for the county fair is not something that I enjoy doing, because you worry about a lot of things in that. You worry that the list is long. But anyways, I don't mind finding a college student, preferably one that's maybe at K-State or at this point, or a university level, because they've had a little bit more experience. But in my opinion, where we're judging the same person is judging 4 species, they are one of the most up to date in all 4 species that you're going to be able to find. I could find a swine producer that judged 20 years ago or more, but the industry's changed a lot, and maybe they didn't find, they haven't stayed up to date on beef, sheep, and goats. So, things like that I tried to take into consideration, and it makes it adds one thing to the list of difficulties. But that's, I know a lot of people are a little gun shy on asking college age students. To me, that's one of your groups that is going to be more up to date on what we're looking for. So, that's kind of who I keep in mind. I utilize, like I said, connections that we have in the swine industry, and just trying to reach kids that were not even necessarily kids, but are current.
Yeah, no, good point. And if you think about on the goat side, how the goat project has really taken off, right? And over the last 10 years now, I'd probably group that. It could be longer or shorter in your county, depending on when it started. From a collegiate level, if you think of just those that are trained in that area, that's about the same time or thereabouts when goats started being incorporated into contests. So you go back to my generation, and again, I'm in 47 here in a couple of weeks. We didn't grow up with goats in judging and in the training. So you can have good livestock people that are very good livestock people. They don't have the training. So while I'll still judge goats, I put limitations on how big that show is, just because I care enough about the kids that I don't want to do something that I'm uncomfortable as a judge. And also it doesn't provide a good experience for the youth. So again, a lot of times judges, if you have to do multi-species, hopefully you have a good livestock person that still gets it, but also you got to be careful depending on the size of the show. So like when Abby talks about 120 goats at her show, you probably don't want to have somebody that goats as a sideline, right? You got to hire a goat person. And so again, some of that depends on the size of shows too, but also to be making sure that we're fair to the judge and to the youth. So yeah, good point. Okay.
Joel, I have a comment. This is Sandra Wick.
Mm-hmm.
We generally try to use K-State collegiate livestock judging team members. Is there any way that you could post that? Because every year I have to call the judging coach, and sometimes they're kind of hard to get a hold of, and they're kind of slow to get back to us. I mean, once they get back to me, it's fine, and they give me that information, and that's what we've used quite a bit, and they just give me cell phones, and it works very well. But it would be nice if you could post that somewhere, if they're willing to do that. Now, maybe he's not, and he would rather just individual agents call, and he'll email the list and whatever.
Yeah, I can visit with Chris about that. I think one of the dangers we get in is so many of them are out of state. They may not be here during county fair season.
Yeah.
The other side I would say too is just because they're on a judging team doesn't necessarily make them qualified.
Yeah.
And so I would say too, and probably get in trouble, when I get a lot of calls or messages about, all species about judges, and I make sure that I'm matching up the right 1, 2, 3 suggestions for that situation. And so I think the danger of, I see where you're at, Sandra, asking that question. I think the danger of publishing that is you may need, you know, a real seasoned beef experienced person. If there's a list, they may be more of a sheep or pig person. And then you just start to get into that. So I see what you're saying, but sometimes we gotta, I would say for these younger judges at like K-State, I'd just say there's a few of us that help make sure that it's going to be successful for you as well as them based on their qualifications for what you're needing. So, but yeah, duly noted. I'll visit with Chris about that.
Okay, and Chris is really good about it. And I think the names that he gives me are the ones that he knows is going to be here in Kansas. And I think he would too also. He's provided me with their strengths, you know, like he'll even list a species by that particular student. And that really helps too. But yeah, if he would rather just do it to us personally, that's fine. I just didn't know.
Yeah. Now, your question's valid. I think with that age, you know, sometimes we just need to make sure that we're setting it up right for both you and them. You know, and maybe that's where it comes in, like where you're at, Senator. I mean, with the university, you know, with Lincoln, you know, at Nebraska, some on the southern border at Oklahoma State, you know, some of the other schools that we could get some out of state or some other people that don't have roots in Kansas. You know, for that, where that's important to some counties, you know, those are opportunities too sometimes.
Yeah. And even Fort Hays has like a livestock judging team now. And so I need to think about calling them as well.
Sure.
To use them too. We don't really use junior colleges up here because Cloud isn't really a livestock judging one. And that would probably be the closest one to us, but I've never contacted them because they're not really an ag college.
Sure. Okay. Maybe any other comments from people on in terms of securing judges or even some of the pay? Because again, one thing that we've learned over the 12, well, it's over 12 years of doing this is compensation's a lot different, and there's no right or wrong way. But it'd be interesting, along with what's been provided, have people changed or have they found what works for them, that they have judges that are satisfied and doesn't cause problems depending how they set that up? Guess anybody else that would, I don't know if Justin or Kara or anybody, Alyssa, how you guys handle those?
Joel, this is Justin. Ours is similar to what was discussed. We've got a flat rate and then we pay mileage, and we've never had any issues with anybody complaining. If anything, they've always said it seems like it's too much. I do have a quick question if I could ask it.
You bet.
Kind of to the group is, when you're getting judges, do you keep that confidential until the show, or is it announced who the judges are prior to the show?
Patsy answered, her and I are both in Twin Creeks District. I try pretty hard to keep it confidential in Graham County. Some days I don't know that necessarily matters, but that's what we try to do.
This is Abby. I'm going to try again. And it depends from year to year on how on top of things we are. And what on Facebook, because I don't want one person to know it and not everyone to know it. So if I'm going to announce it, that has kind of been a trend here lately with some of the bigger shows of announcing the judges.
Yeah. I would say, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say at Rooks County, the judges are announced in the newsletter just prior to the fair, maybe a week to 2 weeks before fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other, yeah, and that's handled all sorts of different ways. There's no right or wrong. You just got to be comfortable if you're going to keep it confidential, how that stays. if you announce it. I mean, the reality is, if you think about, almost all, beef are probably already tagged or going to soon be, for at least for your county requirements. All small animals of sheep, goats, pigs, generally the end of April to about the second or third week of May, are oftentimes tagged, again, depending on your county deadlines. After that point, you just got to be comfortable if you want to keep it confidential or announce. I would say generally, in my experience through all these, I'm not sure anybody announces prior. And the only way that happens is if you have a judge 2 years in a row. So a number of counties would do 2 years in a row, as it's been brought up. Many do 1 year. So if it's generally 2 years, they, unless there was a big problem, everybody's going to know who generally is that judge the second year. Okay. Let me see. Any other questions or comments? We got just over 5 minutes left, so we'll fill in this discussion, but.
So one thing I'm kind of curious about that I forgot to ask in the previous session, how many counties pay the judge, your livestock judge, the day of the show, as opposed to a fair board cutting the check and mailing that to them?
We pay that day.
So in the chat, we're getting some messages there. Yep, so a little bit of both. Yep, there you go. So if you have your chat open, we can see, appreciate those putting all that in. My quick visual math says it's about 50-50-ish. So again, whatever works for you. I would say, if you're a flat fee and don't have mileage, those are things that can be done ahead of time. If you have the expenses turned in, those can take some time. I've been at plenty of fairs that, they process it or they mail it afterwards. I'm not sure that there's a best way. I think it's just whatever is easy. I know probably from a judge's perspective, they probably appreciate getting paid then, and just so they're not thinking about, hey, did I get that check and it's 2 weeks later type thing. Again, as long as you communicate that with the judge up front, I don't think it's any issue, or I've never heard of a judge demanding it that day necessarily, but maybe some of you have come across that.
Thank you.
Yeah, good point. Okay, maybe one thing just briefly, we talked towards the end of the session. I think it's worth bringing up here. Generally talked a little bit about mailing out or getting the information out. I think what's really important, I'll put the judge's hat on for all of you a little bit, even though I'm on both sides of it. I'm swine superintendent at Pot County, so we give suggestions to our agents as superintendents, or superintendents give a list of names, and then our agents ultimately help sort through that, or ones they come across too. But I'd say set your judges up for success. And part of that has to do with having the judges understand your ribbon placing, your divisions. If you have market females, are they part of the classes, or how do you bring them back into the champion? If you have in your pig show, some of you show barrows and gilts separately, some of you show them together. Then how you bring and merge breeds and champions. Please explain all those things very clearly to judges, especially the younger judges that maybe don't have much experience either judging or in Kansas. Every state's different in terms of their placing. I can say in South Dakota, where I'm from, it's the numerical. It's placed, it's the ribbon colors, 1 through whatever. Obviously in Kansas, some of you use blue, reds, whites. Some of you use purples, blues, red, white. Understanding the implications of the ribbon for the premium sale. All those things become important, because there's been certainly situations where judges have good intentions of what they think they're doing is right, but all it did was tick everybody off in the show because they got too much ribbons one way or another. Not that you have to dictate that, but if you lay some historical perspective, then the judge can kind of use their discretion outside of that, as well as, just making sure that they understand how the divisions are, how your show flows. Again, a lot of you are going to put showmanship at the beginning. Some of you do it at the end, and a lot of you shove it in between the breeding and market show. Again, it's all different. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. But again, making sure they understand how the show's laid out and the expectations. Some shows do a supreme top 5. Some of them just do the champion and reserve. Again, all those things become so important to give the judge the right experience to make sure that the youth and parents and everybody else has a good experience. So I'd put that on all of you to make sure that you're helping judges be very well communicated with prior to the show, that they know what to do in terms of expectations.
Joel, this is Leonard Bristow at Brooks County again. I'm curious, is there any counties in the state that use the numerical and not the Danish system with the blues, reds, whites, or purple, blues, red, white?
I'm not familiar with anybody that does that, Leonard, but in many other states, they do at a county level. So yeah, that's part of that. And again, there's no rule. Any county could adopt that. I mean, I don't think there's any policy that way. It's just the tradition in Kansas that at least I don't recall ever coming across that anywhere I've been.
Now that you mention that, I think it's interesting because State Fair uses numeric and none of the counties use that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was kind of curious, but that's just probably how they do it at the state level.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things too that comes up is the white ribbons, right? So some of you may allow white ribbons in your premium sale. Some of you do not. And I'll be honest, that is probably one of the things you must communicate if that is a limitation, because again, if an animal deserves it, that's fine. But you could get a judge swooping in and maybe, if they dip down into the whites, and then those animals don't get in the premium sale and the kids don't have any other animals and that was it. You don't want to be answering for that if that judge was getting very generous with ribbons that he or she should not be in a lot of cases. So again, not that you're telling what the judge to do, but you got to be really clear so it doesn't cause a problem. Okay. Any other last comments? I believe that we should be coming up. Well, we're a minute past, and normally Lexi has it. We're on a tight schedule here, so it hasn't come up that we're going to get kicked out of here yet. But any last comments or questions on the judge's side?
Joel, I got one quick one. Does anybody use the judges to place the sale order for the premium sale?
So are you referring to more than, so like the first places, second places versus the judge actually says, all right, I want these, this should be the order? Is that what you're
Yes.
referring to? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So does anybody have the judge help dictate that order outside of the placings?
Ours in Graham County is all based on the placings. I mean, we have to dictate first red, first blue, second blue, third blue in a class, et cetera. Or well, we dictate that based off the placings, but that's how we run our sale order.
Yeah. Yeah, in all the years of doing this, I have not heard that a county does that. So, hey, we're going to get kicked out of here in 5 seconds. So I really appreciate all the discussion.